but it's a lot different than a lot of Alvin's other stuff. Like we just played a piece of his for Bent Frequency a couple of days ago. That's like going to be on a concert whenever they, broadcast it. But I mean, that was more typical, like lots of silence, and
We're
for
live,
his stuff, this is
friends.
super active.
Yay. Okay, we are live. Live. I'm going to click the button. We're going to wait a couple minutes just to make sure that people log on and come see us. Hello, Facebook. Tell us you're here. Yay, we have people watching. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to wait a couple minutes. Let this thing get live. Of course, did your cat already go away, Marcy? Like the second?
She's on the carpet. She'll be here.
She'll come back in a minute. Oh, we have Lee Vasson watching with us. Hi, Lee. Who else is here? All right, people are coming in. We're a little bit early. These clarinets, us woodwind people, were early, on time, punctual. It helps. All right. All right. And Bruce Kenny just joined us. Hi, Bruce. Hello. All right. It is 8 o'clock. So I'm going to get this thing started. Hello, everybody watching us on Facebook. Welcome to Backstage Banter with your ATL Symphony musicians. My name is Emily Briebach. I play English horn for the Atlanta Symphony. And today we are joined by our lovely clarinet section. We have Laura Ardan, Marcy Gurno, Alcides Rodriguez, and Ted Gertsch. Yay. Okay, we have Justin Stanley just joined in. Bruce Kenny says, hi, y'all. Eugen Lee says, hi, guys. This is Eugen. We have lots of people who are joining us. This is great. I encourage anybody who's watching us on Facebook to please enter any questions or comments you have for our clarinet section in the comments section. And I will make sure that I relay it to our clarinet section. So first and foremost, cheers. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. Yay. All right. So why don't we just start with what everybody's up to these days in these weird times? Because I know that the four of you haven't been in the same room together probably since March, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty great.
That was Mahler first was the last thing we played together, yeah.
Yep.
Right. So that was like the second week in March. So it's been a minute. So Laura, what have you been up to? What have you been up to this week? What have you been up to the last couple months? Give us a.
Well, I started out extremely productive, and there was a real call to action with the board members and making videos and reaching out and connecting. And so I don't know how many videos I did. And that was a huge learning curve to learn how to video myself. And then of course, since I have no skill whatsoever with this, I had to do everything in one take, talking, playing, lighting. So it would take me like 3 days to make one little film of like 5 minutes. So I did a lot of that. And then I tried to do some duets with people for Bellingham and some of the other music festivals that have been canceled. And I did two things with violin and clarinet. And then Paul Murphy and I did a little something for viola. And I put a 6-foot rope in my living room. And the string players wore masks. And I just, pointed in the other direction. And we made these little films. And then time went on, and the symphony started, sort of. It kept gonna start, and then it kept gonna start, and I waited and practiced and tried to maneuver things. Then finally we did, and there's been very little for clarinet. But I've been entertaining myself with solo repertoire that I never learned, including all the Kovacs. Thank you, Marcy. That I had actually never even heard before, although I knew they were out there. I'd had students who had done them. So
what are those pieces for those of us who don't know?
Those are homage. They're a set of homage to certain composers for solo clarinet. Most clarinetists know them very well because a lot of teachers use them as studies. And it just wasn't something that was in my teaching repertoire, but is quickly becoming. I mean, some are better than others, obviously, but they're a really good study. And he was an awesome player, and he is an awesome player and composer. So it's pretty cool. And then all the vast solo clarinet repertoire, which I've never had time to touch, and also recital stuff. That just being busy in the symphony, I'm not doing a lot of solo recitals, maybe once a year or something, but there's a lot of repertoire. So that was fun. I'm ready to play with people.
I know, I know. It was so nice to play that Serenbe concert with the all the opera music. Got to play with as much of a full woodwind section as we're able to under the current COVID guidelines. There's like two of each woodwind, which is not exactly how opera is written, but hey, we got to play with each other. So that's the important thing.
Yeah, that was super amazing. And Ted and Alcides played the Beethoven violin concerto, and I did the summer music Serenbe, and that's about it.
Yeah.
We have a couple of other things coming up, but Alcides will be playing David Bowie tomorrow.
Oh,
And
Go see Alcides play David Bowie at, what's it called? Amaris Amphitheater?
Bank.
And I played the Led Zeppelin. And
Oh, there you go.
believe it or not, this is the kind of thing when you're doing 5 classical concerts and kiddie concerts and all that during the week, and you said, oh gosh, I have to do this. I really enjoyed myself.
Good.
I felt like I was sitting right in the band, and they were live musicians, drummers, guitar players, and that was terrific. Really loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
What I've been up to.
Yeah. Ted, how about you? Give us a rundown. I know you have
Wow.
2 kids, so I'm sure you were dealing with some online school stuff once all of this happened.
Yeah, they've been, starting last March, everything went online for all the school kids, but the schools weren't that prepared in the spring, so it was almost like nothing was going on. Like we realized that schools don't seem to teach anything after March, is what we learned, because they finished their grades and they were fine. And now this year is a lot more complete, and so they're doing, they're in 9th and 5th grade. So apparently there's going to be a flash flood in Decatur. Sorry about that.
Oh gosh.
Luckily I'm on sort of high ground, I guess. But
there you go.
yeah. But so they're they're doing great with that, and they're self-sufficient enough that I don't really have to do anything for that but be around and tell them I don't know how to turn back the internet on. So I asked them what to do. And otherwise, like Lara said, there hasn't been a ton of, clarinet stuff in orchestra, just the nature of the repertoire so far. And I played a Beatles show, which was fun. So
Very good.
played flute for the first time in 10 years. So that was good. And then, or no, it wasn't good.
How many
It was
instruments do you
enjoyable,
play,
but
Ted?
not good. Well, I held the flute, so I'm not sure if I played it or not. But
Well, what people might not realize is that Ted is our resident one-man band. I guess is how we can put it. How many instruments do you play? How many do you own?
well, Marcy would say I only play clarinet. So then I have other devices that I own and make noise on. So, but saxophones are great because they're all exactly the same. Your hands are just farther apart. So, it's not like oboe and English horn, or, it's not like playing different double reeds. So, I play clarinet and saxophone. That's it. And just a little tiny bit of flute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you work on when you were playing some flute this summer?
Like all the things I took, all my little Handel and Haydn and different things I did, and when I took lessons in college. You took
my
flute
fun
lessons? Well, like you have to, if you're in jazz ensemble, you have to play flute, and So that was my double.
Oh,
But
nice.
flute, like you always sound really good if you haven't played for 2 years, and then you start to sound worse and worse. That's the. But the first 10 minutes are great every time. So
That happens with every wind instrument. Like, you know how you, if you take some time off and you come back to it and like the first 10 minutes, you're like, oh, right, this is great. And then like it's downhill. It's one of those.
oh yeah,
Hey.
it's like, I mean, I don't play golf at all, but the first two golf swings I swing are like, wow, this is great. I could really do this. And then after that, they're awful. So
Right,
it's about
right.
the same. But
That's
other
funny.
than that, there's been a very little bit of chamber music. I just did um, a piece at Georgia State that'll come out later with Bent Frequency. That's a new music group, and um, there's been a few other things played on Joe Petrasic's front porch one night, and Joe and Jessica, and that was a really fun thing. And um, a few did a couple master classes at Grady High School, just virtually, for the band, for the clarinets in the band, and yeah, a couple other really little chamber music things. But otherwise, it's just been more personal stuff. I we agreed with Alcides we wouldn't talk about reed making, so I won't talk about all the reeds that I should have made by now, which are not
I'm,
very far along, but
I'm certain I have no idea what you're talking about at all.
yes, yes.
All right, well, I'll throw it over to Alcides then. What have you been up to?
Well, I have two small children, 4 years old and almost 11 months old, and so that's basically a full-time job, between my wife and I. And
Yeah.
yeah, so and just I haven't been doing much like performing, with people, just trying to practice at home. And at the beginning, same thing like with as with Laura, like when we were doing some videos for donors, I got very inspired to do some videos. And same thing, I went through the whole learning curve. I got some equipment, and I was like, I'm gonna do all these projects, and I only did one. And
They're hard.
yeah, it's I mean, it's once you start, doing recording and videoing and editing, it really takes a long time, and you have to be in good shape, to record. So it's really difficult to get to stay in that shape, to be to be doing recordings. So I did a little bit of that. And but it's always been, busy with the children, because it's with the pandemic, it's difficult to get childcare. I mean, you don't want to get babysitters to come over the house, so we have to do everything, and we couldn't send them to daycare either. So it's we just take turns, So if Heather needs to get something done, I have to take care of him, And then if I need to get something done, she has to take care of them. And since we have a small business, like the Clarinet shop is, so it's like getting all the stuff done is a lot of work. So for me, it's been like my Clarinets actually. So we just moved recently, like a week ago, and my Clarinet had been just put together uh, uh, on my practice area, so that if I have like 5 minutes, I just grab it and practice something, and I move to the bench and work on something, and I go upstairs and babysit, and then do, it's like a same cycle all the time.
How's the
Um,
business been? Have you guys been working on a lot of instruments?
yeah, the business, I mean, we've been like, it kind of slowed down in like around March and April, but then after May, it started picking up again. People wanted to get their clients overhauled, and like, we want, I guess people realized that they had the time to get work
Right.
done on their instruments. So it's been very steady. And so that has, kept me busy too, during this pandemic, and actually the first time I played live again was last night. I played with the ACP, with Atlanta Chamber Players.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we played the opening of the season. It was right there at the First Presbyterian Church,
Mhm.
and it was fun. It was, again, it's, I guess everybody's experiencing that, like the first time you play with, live people, even if it's a chamber group or like a duet, a trio, just playing music again is pretty incredible, to be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Marcy, how about you? What have you been up to?
Um, well, I definitely started out motivated to do all of the things. Um, I went through all of the phases of like, I made sourdough. What else did everybody do in the pandemic?
You're into
Um,
beans for a while, I think I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, I'm in a bean club. So like some cooking stuff. I painted my kitchen. I got married and learned how to make a wedding cake and made my own wedding cake.
You can't
Um,
just like put that in like a list like that. It's like there was the beans and then there's
there's
the
a bean,
wedding and then
you
there...
know. um,
Congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, I feel like I've always wanted to learn to do new things and have the time to do them, and now I've got all of the time, and um, it's kind of too much time.
Yeah. Right?
I really crave structure and schedules, and then cramming a ton of things in, but still having a schedule. I'm just much more productive that way. So, there have been some times of like not practicing or not running. I'm a pretty busy runner, but I've been kind of taking a break from that. I don't know. It's been an interesting process as everybody
Yeah.
has experienced. But yeah, lately I started at the beginning of the quarantine stuff. I was knitting. I was making I made a little short sleeve sweater and a little tank top and whatever. Now I am knitting a bunch of beanies. So like that's the thing that keeps me busy, keeps my hands busy, and keeps you from scrolling the internet aimlessly. So
Right.
it's very good.
Yeah, the doom scrolling, it's a real thing. We have a couple of comments in here. Todd Skitch, our second flutist, says, "Oh wow, I want to hear Ted play the flute."
No, you don't. You do not.
um, Laura Nigerian says, "These are all about Ted. You're a popular guy, Ted. The first week I played in the orchestra, I was subbing. We played Bolero, and I remember watching Ted play 3 different solos. The flipping of one saxophone around his back to grab the second saxophone was amazing." That's fantastic. I have another comment in here if I can find it. I did see it. Oh, as a teacher doing a lot of hybrid and online teaching this year, is there any advice I can give to young high school clarinetists struggling with developing clear tone and articulations? Oh man, Laura, I'll start with you.
Get a good microphone. They're not very expensive. I'm really surprised how many students don't get them. And it just makes a huge difference to the teacher because you cannot hear, just on one of the most of the mics. It's amazing. Some computers have pretty good mics, but yeah, definitely get. And then of course, if you don't have good internet speed, you can try to go to someone else's house, maybe in a family member or a church or something that has a good internet speed, because it really, that's it. But there's plenty of great learning to be done that can't be done as well, right? On Zoom. I mean, you can study music, which is great. A lot of times I've noticed myself, I don't have time to just study the score. I'm just learning the part and sort of learning, but it's really great to be able to study the piece in its entirety, which you need to do anyway. So that's my advice. Anybody else?
Yeah, anybody else have good any tips on clear tone and articulation to be taught over the internet? It's a hard one.
Yeah, I try to I haven't done a lot of teaching online, but like when I'm doing something like that, I'm just trying to think of what my teachers told me in the past. And, usually when I'm teaching, I'm a little bit more reactive, like I'm listening to the student and trying to hear exactly what's going on. And when you can't really do that on your device as well, it's more like, what are these basic mechanical things that I forgot how Mr. Hasty said to do it, when I was in school. And so it's like, that's been instructive just to think, oh yeah, he said to, make sure you have that little bit of tongue on the reed before, and a little bit of support, the little hut ta before you let your attack, all the actually the way to phrase what you're actually mechanically doing. is even more important, I think, than when you're live with the person. So yeah, some of those have been good. I can look back at some of my old notes and things and just say, wow, he really phrased that well. And I haven't like phrased it that well for like 35 years since I had a lesson with him. So it's like, you know, it really helps to go back to those old, you know, and just to be really clear mechanically with what you're trying to tell somebody to do, you know, instead of like just make it sound better, you know, like you're really just trying to really hone in on the breath support.
That's one of the hardest things about teaching a wind instrument, especially my husband is a cellist. So everything they do is outside of the body, right? You have your hands on both hands, you have, you know, all of this, it's all visible, right? And so much of what we do is invisible. It's inside the mouth, it's inside the airstream, it's inside, like, you can't see, you can talk about what, you know, like this muscle should do this and that muscle should do that. And then like, it doesn't sound like you're doing it right, but I can't see. Like that problem becomes even worse over the internet, right? When you know, you have students who's like, you're only seeing like this, and you have to tell them to like, move your screen so I can see all of you. Marcy, how about you? I know you have a lot of talent development program students and a lot of other private students, Emory students as well. Do you have any tips on tone production and articulation for a high school clarinetist?
Gosh, I mean, a good read and a good mouthpiece obviously are really helpful. It's hard again with the virtual thing to, you know, I ask my student, okay, where on the mouthpiece is your reed? Like maybe you should move it up, or is that reed like ancient? Should you get a new one? So it's been interesting to kind of work around those virtual kinds of things. But usually air is always the answer. It's like it solves pretty much anything and everything in some way. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice, was just encourage them to use more air and just a more active airstream.
Yeah, trying to even like talk to someone about how to take in a good breath over the internet when you're not right next to them is also incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
We have someone named Jay Weber that says the microphone suggestion from Laura is probably the top thing I keep telling my students. Unfortunately, they're as responsive as they are when I tell them to use a metronome. I hear ya.
Yeah.
We have, everyone loves Ted and the multiple instruments. Elizabeth Remy Johnson, our harp player in the ASO, said, I've always thought Ted should put on different disguises when he makes those quick instrument changes, like those glasses with a nose and a mustache.
That's right. Yeah, then you wouldn't know who to blame. That's exactly right.
That's how you do it. All right. So speaking of, I know you guys all seem to be saying that you're just really longing to play with a full orchestra again. So on that note, what piece are you looking forward to playing most once everything's back to normal? Once we can play with a full orchestra, what's your bucket list piece, or what have you been really missing and wanting to play? Alcides, why don't we start
Anything with bass clarinet.
I hear ya. It has bass clarinet, it has English horn, so I'm right there.
Bass clarinet. Even bolero, you know.
There you go, bolero with Ted's
Bolero, you
multiple
always put
solos.
me to shame, you know, because here's Ted playing 3 solos and I'm just playing, you know, 4, boom, 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 boom.
Laura, how about you?
Oh gosh, really, you know, it's like wine. You know, what wine are you looking forward to? Well, the one I want that day. There are so many different kinds of pieces. I think the biggest thing is just interacting musically with people. It's just amazing. You know, when we're at work all the time, we're so overloaded with that, and so this is that silver lining. And then you get to play with Led Zeppelin, or it's actually, or anything, a duet, you know, Alcides, like what you did, that must have just been great. We did Barbara Summer music, and it was just to listen to other people play. It energizes you, you know. And then that team spirit. So, you know, I have favorite pieces. I think I'm really longing for the big orchestra. It's, you know, like little vibrations all over your body. And I never thought I would miss it this much, but yeah. And we were supposed to do all these Mahler symphonies, right? And,
It would be nice to play some Mahlers or like some Strauss, like pieces like Sinfonia Domestica. Those pieces are like huge orchestration that um, it's really for what we do. Being orchestral musicians. Every time I get the chance to play on a piece like that, like Strauss Sinfonia Domestica, or even Don Juan or Death and Transfiguration, it's like I don't know. I get chill bumps because it's like one of the only moments it's like I feel like this is what I do this for. Like when you play pieces like that, when you really feel um, just to hear that orchestral sound, that true orchestral sound, and just Strauss and Rachmaninoff and Mahler. That's when you get that full rich sound of the orchestra. It's pretty amazing, pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
That's what I miss.
Totally. I know. I hear you. Ted, how about you? Are there any pieces you're itching to play?
Rite of Spring. That's pretty much my favorite thing to. That has like the greatest mix of. It's like so fun to listen to everybody else. There's like so much cool stuff to listen to, and then there's like so much fun stuff to play. So, and the stuff to play is I mean, it's like gratifying to play. It's all like, even the hard stuff is really well written for the instruments. I just feel like it's like, yeah, it's just that mix of, I'm looking forward to like listening to everybody play all their solos and all the tuties, and then I'm would look forward to the stuff I would have to do. So it's, yeah, and I really missed doing that in the spring. We were supposed to do it.
No.
So
Yeah, we're supposed to do it in April with our then assistant conductor Stephen Mulligan, which would have been pretty great to do. I know, and that has, I think in the oboe section at least, there are 5 oboe parts. Are there 5 clarinet parts also?
yeah, right.
I was really looking forward to this with Steven.
Yeah.
I don't look forward to do things with assistant conductors, but I was looking forward to do this with Steven. Somehow, I mean, he's
Yeah. Oh, that seems like right up his alley. I was super excited. He was going to be right on top of it. Yeah, it would have been really great. But yeah, even that, like I'm saying, there's five clarinets, there's 5 oboes, so that's like 20 people just in the wind section at least. If there's not 6 flutes, there might be 6 flutes for all I know. But like, and that's like about as many people as we can get in one room together right now to play, oh man. Marcy, so what Mahler symphony are you looking forward to playing next?
I mean, it's no secret that I'm a Mahler freak, but I would love to play any Mahler. I now have completed all of them, so I will do any of them again.
Your Mahler bingo card is full.
My Mahler bingo card is full, yes. Although I haven't done Kindertotenlieder, so if anybody needs a clarinet on that, I'm available. But honestly, just like everyone else is saying, sorry. Oh, my cat. She was being dramatic. She's fine.
Dramatic.
I would love to play Alpine Symphony, speaking of Strauss. It's one of the best pieces ever.
And I don't think we've done that since I've been here. I've been here, this is my 9th season. I don't think we've done it.
No, we
I
haven't
don't
played.
think it's done often.
15 years.
Yeah.
We haven't played it.
But honestly, I would even be okay with playing some Sibelius.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You're that desperate.
I cannot believe you said that.
Just had to slip
A little bit in there.
a little dig on Sibelius. Every other backstage banter, I'm commenting about like, oh, Sibelius. So thought I'd mention that.
Oh, man. Nicole Jordan, our former principal librarian, is watching, and she says Mahler 4 has a chamber reduction with a clarinet / bass clarinet for you, Marcy. I think you'd have to fight Alcides for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Berlin playing that. They did that version.
I think Dallas did some sort of reduction of Das Lied, if I'm not mistaken, too. I didn't know that there was a reduction of that. I think that's what they were playing. Maybe
Was it Dallas or was it?
I saw Dallas doing something Mahler with a reduction, and I thought it was.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes, you're right. It was Das Lied. I'm pretty sure it was Das Lied.
I'd love to do that too. That's also like that has one of the like craziest oboe solos ever in it. Just like it's just insanity in an oboe solo. I love it. We have um, Daniel Barker says, Laura, Carl Hall told me on one occasion that he really loved playing with you because he could count on you to work overtime on balance, blend, etc. It reminded me of how many things are just as important as playing fast and right. Heck yeah.
Aw, Carl Hall. Hi, Dan. We love Carl Hall. Yeah.
We also have Larry Lemaster, who's a cellist with the ASO, has said that he wants to play, what did he say? Strauss tone poems, complicated and fun and highly rewarding to play. And he also said Sibelius 2 was Yoel Levy's big piece. Did you guys play that a lot under Levy?
He recorded that with Cleveland, I know. And we did do it with him. But I think only, Tad, I don't know. You've played it a couple of times as well. Did you?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we did it a few times, but I'm not sure how many.
Yeah. It was a big piece for him, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Juan de Gomar says Detroit did Das Lied with Donald Runnicles at the same time our concert with Donald was airing, which was last weekend. Or this weekend. It's currently airing. So I guess Detroit has done the Das Lied. Das Lied von der Erde, for those who are not familiar with the shortened version, which is just so great also. We've done that, I think, once since I've been here. We did one Das Lied. Yeah. All right. We always have questions about how to stay motivated and how to motivated to practice during all of this time. And I know we've all spoken a little bit about how hard that's been, right? The motivation ebbs and flows for sure. But do you guys have any tips for any students out there who are needing some help with some practice motivation? Laura, you were saying that you're working on repertoire that you hadn't worked on before. Is that one thing that's been keeping you going?
Absolutely, but the real key is always to set a date. Play it for your parents, play it for your uncle or your cousin. It doesn't matter what you set the date for it. Record it for a friend, or actually a friend is hard because you can say, oh, well, I never got around to that. But some kind of date that you would be hard to get out of, that is absolutely the number one motivation for any practice at all.
Absolutely. That's a really good idea. Even just say you're going to live stream yourself on Facebook and just start promoting it. That'll get you practicing.
Did you guys do that? Did you do that?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, at the beginning, this is a clarinet banter. We don't need to talk about oboe stuff, but like I said, my husband is a cellist, and one of the big oboe method books has a bass line to it. And I had never played any of them with the bass line. So there are 40 progressive melodies is what they're called from the Barrett Etude books. My husband and I recorded one of them a day for 40 days, which ended up being more like 44 or 45 days because some days it just was not happening. But that was absolutely good motivation. And also it was very much kind of bearing your soul, because all of these Barretts are like the Bible of playing the oboe. So to put recordings of yourself out every day playing one of them was definitely interesting. But yeah, absolutely, set a date. How about you, Marcy? Is there anything you've been able? Again, I know that you have a lot of high school age students. How have you been able to help them stay motivated?
Well, I do have a senior this year, so helping to keep her on track for college auditions, trying to get her to play for other teachers as like kind of trial lessons. And it's actually helpful to know that she's got all this repertoire that she's working on that I kind of have to make sure that I'm on top of as well.
Right. That's true.
So maybe it's like motivating me to practice that, and also learn. A couple of my Emory kids are doing some of the Kovacs homage, so I'm like, oh, I need to learn that one again so that I can, experience it with them and have better suggestions than just sitting here and not playing them.
Right. We had someone in the comments say, any recommendations for clarinet method studies which should break out during quarantine? That's from Christina Bianco. Ted, do you have any method books that you can recommend?
I mean, my favorite thing to play out of are these classical studies which I don't know why it's called that, but it's all Bach and Handel, and it's most of the cello suites and a lot of violin partitas, and
Oh, wow.
it's so much fun to play because clarinet has the range to do it. I mean, and bass clarinetists do it all the time because they really have the range to do it. But you know, it's so much fun on clarinet, and I mean, it's like the greatest music like in the world, basically. So it's you know, it's really gratifying to play at any level, and there's stuff that you can access at almost any skill level in there. So it's like an old, that's, you know, it's a Rubank book, just called Classical Studies. So I mean, to me, that's just so, that's still, I take that out every once in a while and play something because it's just so much fun to do. And you don't have to read bass clef, which is even better. So, yeah.
Alcides, how about you? How have you been able to stay motivated, or do you have any suggestions for students looking for motivational help?
Yeah, you know, I agree with what Laura said. Just to having a goal. For me, you know, it's been mostly recording. So like, if I know how to record something, that's my, you know, that's my goal, to just to get to do it. But what I've been doing, let's see, you know, softer reads also help a lot. Like, no, seriously, because sometimes, you know, like, you know, when you're like, when being in shape, you know, when you're playing the orchestra all the time, you know, you have like, you know, your reads are, you know, harder. And then, you know, during the pandemic, I really got out of shape, you know, because I wasn't playing as much. So I was going to practicing, and it got really difficult and frustrating, you know. So I was like, you know, so I broke my number 3 reads, and it felt awesome. You know, I was like, oh, I can play for a long time, you know, and I don't have to do any effort, you know, like, you know, because when I'm playing by myself too, I don't have to play as loud as I do when I'm in the orchestra. But yeah, so it's been up and down. So softer reads help me a lot. Um, but for me, I always try to keep my articulation going. You know, making sure that I can tongue, you know, because that's the first thing that goes away when you don't practice for, you know, regularly. And I think I've done some of the etudes that Ted mentioned, and I also do a lot of the Rose 32 etudes, you know, which is pretty standard for clarinet. And a book that I do a lot is the body making for the clarinetist, which is mostly for technique. You know, just to get, it's like a really quick way to get your right hand and left hand, you know, back in shape, you know. And so that's what I do sometimes, you know, just to keep motivated, you know, just, yeah. But I think I agree with Laura about keeping a log and just keeping a, you know, just, you have to make goals, otherwise it's impossible to reach, you know, a goal.
Yeah.
So if I can make a comment, we used to have a Joseph Wathall was our personnel manager slash trumpet player, and he used to say, "Well, you just got to get your butt in the chair."
Pretty much, pretty much.
That's half the struggle right there.
Yeah.
Just like
Just sitting down, and once you start playing, it's like, oh yeah, okay. So and that's why schedule is so important, right? When you're on a schedule, then you know you don't fight it so much. It's a habit, but then when the schedule is all over the place, it's really
right.
That's
When
so
you
true.
when you have 24 hours that you could practice, you don't end up practicing. Where if you have 1 hour of a day that you could practice, that's when you practice.
exactly.
I know that thing too. Michelle Rickard in the comments says that is so true. I've been playing on softer reeds also. Softer reeds, man, that's the way to do it. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like what we do as soloists in the orchestra, as almost all of us are, is just to project, right? That's what we have to do. Is just like get our sound out over the orchestra, and that just takes more
And
air, harder reeds.
also software, you know, also this is a side for our business, you know, because I play a lot of clarinets, you know, you know, we try a bunch of different clarinets, and I play all models of clarinets. You know, we have R13s, you know, we have the RC Prestigious, R13 Prestigious, the Toscas, all the models. And obviously when I'm in shape, I try them very picky, and some of them are like very stuffy, or, oh, this is too resistant, or this is, you know, whatever. With a soft reed, they all are awesome. It's, it's like,
To life is a soft read, is what I'm getting.
yeah, soft reeds, you know, really works.
It's true. It's well, that's such a hard thing for like students to, I mean, at least on the oboe end of the spectrum, it's like they want this big, round, dark sound. And so they play on these like incredibly hard reeds that they can't actually do anything on or play for more than 3 minutes on. I don't know if that's something that clarinet players deal with too.
It's yeah, it's something that which is actually a misconception. Like playing on a harder reed to have a dark sound. It just doesn't work that way. And yeah, it's like I remember Larry Combs, told me once that when he was I was very lucky to have him as a coach one quarter at Northwestern for a chamber music piece, and of course you get so obsessed about reeds and the dark sound, especially in clarinet. Like you don't want to sound bright on the clarinet. You don't want to sound bright. Everybody's avoiding it, so everybody ends up singing like really hard reeds and like stuff that in the end you end up sounding all like muffled and tubby. And I asked him, so what? I asked him about reeds, and he said, you're always gonna sound like yourself, no matter if you have a soft or harder reed. Of course, there might be a little bit of variation, but you're always gonna sound like yourself. So that was like, a really good advice that he gave me once, and I said it really helped. And the other one was from Berhara. He same thing, he's like, what is bright, or what is dark. So so to me, I think you can get also a really beautiful sound, with a soft reed. You don't need to
Absolutely.
kill yourself, with
Absolutely.
a hard reed to get a dark sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just take you and just like bring you to all of my oboe lessons? And they're like, oh, but it's so bright. I was like, yes, but you can play at all volumes.
Yeah. And actually,
On command.
I have learned a lot of that from the bass clarinet because on the clarinet, if you have a reed that is a little bit hard, you can still play. You can just, you can, of course, it's gonna hurt at the end, but you can still play and be okay. On the bass clarinet, if you have a hard reed, it's impossible to do anything. It's like, forget it. So, because of the bass clarinet, I've always been, you have to have a softer reed no matter what. So I have kind of bring that to the clarinet, so it helps me a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of people in the comments agreeing with you here about embracing softer reads. We also have Joanna Yarbrough. Am I saying that right? Says hello from Detroit. Um, hello. Uh,
Hello.
awesome. So let's take it away from music for just a second. Um, is there anything that you guys have been doing either during quarantine or just in your everyday life that people might not know about you that is not music related? Any hobbies you picked up during quarantine? So Marcy, you were talking a little bit about knitting. Why don't we start with you? I know your knitting has been ramping up recently.
Yes. Yeah, I've been knitting. I originally learned how to knit in grad school in Chicago where it was cold. And then I moved to Florida and I stopped knitting because why?
Right.
Uh, and so about a year ago, I thought, maybe I'll try that again, and kind of picked it up and made a few hats and stuff for gifts for Christmas last year. And lately, I'm like, okay, I need something to do with my hands, just like to. It's like calm mind for busy hands. So I've been making lots of beanies and got a whole like bin of,
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, just like fun
They're so cute.
little beanies.
Mm.
I love the pom poms.
This one is for my niece, and I can't wait to see it on her because it's
How
so
old is your
pretty.
niece?
She is 3.
Oh, it's gonna be as big as her head.
I know. She probably won't like it because she's 3, but she'll have to deal with that.
Right.
So that's been kind of my fun thing as of late.
Yeah. Laura, how about you? Is there anything you've been doing extra musically?
I did one incredible feat that I'm so proud of.
Do tell.
I did my own taxes.
Oh, wow.
For the first time in my life,
Why?
I haven't been arrested yet, so I think it's okay. It started out with I was going to be, by the way, I never get money back. I was going to be given $10,000. I thought, ooh, that refund sounds a little high. So I had to redo it, but it's really complicated because my car was depreciated, instruments, all that, and then everything changed in 2017. Anyway, that was sort of a stretch for me. I've been real boring. I've been reaching out to family, which I've never had time to do, and helping with some elderly relatives when I could, quarantine long enough to go see things like that I never had time. So that was great. And if I can just give a big hello to Christina Bianco. Hi, Christina. Thanks for commenting earlier.
Yeah, she's all over the comment section. She's loving this. That's great. Oh my gosh, we have so many people saying that they used to play on a 5. They're someone said I thought I was something well in high school because I could play on a number 5 Rico.
Oh. Well, Ricos are softer than the mandolin.
Oh. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, everyone is loving the reed talk. See, we're allowed to talk about reeds, Alcides. It's okay. Ted, how about you? Is there anything extra musical you've been doing or that you do on a regular basis?
Well, I guess this summer, getting like acquainted with the joys of pool maintenance, because I put up an above ground pool like the other 100 million people in the US for their kids. So that was, that was a lot of work. And then I like kind of built a little deck for it and stuff. So, but anyway, that's the biggest like backyard change, because, we usually join the city pools and all that, we couldn't really do in the summer. So anyway, that was like the biggest thing that I probably swore I would never see in my backyard was, was an above ground pool. And now but I had one when I was a kid and I always loved it. So that's been fun to watch everybody, and to actually like jump in and do things like that I haven't done for a little while. So.
Yeah. Well, you said you built a deck for it. Are there other projects around the house that you've done also?
Well, to varying degrees of success. I try to do whatever I can do, so draw like 100 plans, and then somehow it was really hard to find wood this summer, because of supply chains. And so you couldn't find this wood and that wood. So it turned the whole thing into a big project. Like, they say they have it at Lowe's. They don't have it. So, the most casual things were these interesting, intriguing projects in the summer. So that's like a side benefit, turned it into like 1925 when you had to go to the sawmill and find your wood. So you become a connoisseur.
Your horse and
Well,
carriage.
yeah, and you find a way to build it with the wrong sizes and everything. So anyway, I know that's kind of silly, but that was the biggest.
Great.
That was the biggest oddity of the summer, I would say. And it's still, now we've got some little boats that we drive around on it. So
like motorized boats.
Yeah, we don't sit in them. They're this big, but
right, but like remote controlled.
It would be great. I wish I had like a canoe in there. That would be the next step.
It's like that's one hell of an in-ground pool you've
got.
That would
be. Oh no, it's not in. It's above ground. Yeah.
Above ground. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's 1.5 feet deep at one end, so that's good. But in ground that far.
Right. That's funny. Alcides, how about you? What extra musical things have you been up to? I know you're a biker, right? You like
I cycle a little bit. I haven't been doing much lately, but I used to go in 60, 70-mile rides on the weekends, and but one of the things I started doing was like gravel cycling, which is kind of scary. You need to have a gravel bicycle, and a bicycle like you can go on gravel, and that's very interesting. But I always try to stay active, either cycling or running a little bit. And what I've been doing a lot lately is just spending a lot of time with my son. He loves being outside. And so sometimes I just go outside with him and I spend like an hour, because he just wants to be outside, just picking sticks and just doing anything. Sometimes we kick the ball, like he likes to, kick the soccer ball. So I spend a lot of time, with him, and that's one of the things I have enjoyed a lot about this, that I just got to spend time with my kids. And
Is
that's
he riding
why,
a bike yet?
not yet, not yet. He just doesn't show much interest on that. I mean, he loves a scooter. He has a scooter, and he's was being like, showing interest a lot later than a lot of kids. In the bicycle, he's not interested a lot, but scooter and running and picking up sticks, and he really likes hiking. He likes the outdoors.
Where have you
So
guys
that's,
gone hiking with him?
well, we just go around the neighborhood, and there's some like some small trails, and so we do that stuff. And also our yard is like a forest in the back, so we
Oh,
spend a
nice.
lot of time there, just picking sticks. We make like piles of sticks, and we clean them later. So
I'm sensing a theme of sticks.
yeah, sticks. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's great. So we have one sassy comment from Laura Nigerian, which is to be expected. And she says, so is it clarinet or is it clarinet? Asking for a friend. I have no idea what that means. Clarinet? Clarinet?
Hmm.
I have no idea.
I don't know. As the English native English speakers.
Right.
Excellent point. Okay, so we are nearing the end of our time together, and I have to ask you guys my favorite question, which I really hope we have some good stories. So, do you guys have any funny or ridiculous or silly or embarrassing stories about life on stage? Crazy things that have happened at concerts or leading up to concerts or anything. We've had some great stories about the great time change of 2013 when our Saturday concerts were at 7:30 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. Rob Cronin told us a story about him coming in late and having missed the first movement of a Haydn symphony. that Todd Skitch actually had to move over and play sight read principal for on a trial week. um, we had a story from our new trumpet player. He was playing at Carnegie Hall and decided to play on a different mute in a concert in youth orchestra than he did during rehearsals, and the mute fell out of his trumpet in the middle of Rite of Spring, and that like really quiet trumpet thing at the beginning of the second part, mute fell out, and like during rest he had to like crawl around underneath the clarinet section actually to try and get the mute back. So do you guys have any stories like that? Or otherwise, or audition stories even. Gosh, everyone has a crazy audition story, right? If you guys, okay, I'm gonna let you guys think, and I'm gonna tell you my favorite audition story from me, because I have one. So in 2010, I auditioned for Principal Oboe of the Nashville Symphony. And in 2010, there was the big BP oil spill in the Gulf, and that was covering the news. But what happened the same weekend is that giant flood in Nashville that took out the bottom level of the Skirmerhorn, which is their hall. Several Steinways were put underwater. There was just so much damage done to to instruments of the orchestra. What you may not also know is that was also during their Principal Oboe audition. So I was on stage as rain was doing this outside. It was craziness. And I had advanced from, I advanced out of the semifinal round, but the final round was only, contractually, they only had to listen to 3 people, and they had advanced 5 people out of the semifinal round. So they had a super semifinal round, which I was a part of. Where we had to play 2 excerpts, because at that point the place was on generators. Like they lost power. We were on generators. They're like, oh, great, let's just get this over with. So 2 excerpts each for the 5 people before they cut it down to 3 and went to the finals. So they had us play the end of the first movement of La Tomba de Couperin, which has a bunch of really fast high notes, which is not something oboe players do very well. So we had to do that. I missed one of them, and I get to the end of the excerpt and the power goes out in the entire building. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Maybe they won't realize that I played that, I didn't miss that note. They noticed I got cut after that. But years later, the English horn player of the Nashville Symphony was at an Atlanta Symphony concert, and I hadn't met him before. I talked to him on the phone. No, I got an email comments from him after that audition. And Delmar Williams, who's a big mega fan of the Atlanta Symphony and of the double reed world, is like, Emily, you have to meet Roger. So I went over and met Roger. And I told him the story. He's like, "That was you!" It was like behind a screen, and I was like, "Oh." So that's my favorite audition story. But now that I've given you a second to think, anybody else have any good stories?
I don't have an audition story because I think I block everything out that's
That's
potentially
fair.
bad that was related with any of those millions of auditions I've taken. Uh, but I have one of my favorite moments was in my previous job in Jacksonville. We did a Memorial Day weekend. We would do run out concerts full of nice patriotic stuff and always 1812. And this one day we were playing in this church, and it was kind of, we were like at I don't know what the background is called of the church, but there are rows, and I'm sitting kind of above, and there's no cannons indoors, right? Because some of the outdoor concerts, they would actually have real life cannons, which was always a little terrifying. But there were no cannons indoors, so the bass drum was really, gung ho about like making them like super loud. And it was like watching a slow motion accident because you could see the the guy hit the bass drum, and all of a sudden it started rolling towards the piccolo player because I guess there's like a break on the bass drum and they hadn't put it on, and I was just watching like wide-eyed, still playing like, oh god, this is really bad. And that is like my favorite moment ever. I remember so much about that and also Memorial Day weekend concert in an outdoor place where like a big gust of wind blew everybody's music like up in the air, comically off the stands, and I was crying. I was laughing so much. I was like ducking behind the stand because I just couldn't deal with it.
What happened to the poor piccolo player? Did it hit the piccolo player?
She finally, yeah, it kind of just, I don't think it didn't run her over or anything, but and the bass drum guy's like trying to scramble after it, and like it was classic.
Very good.
Well,
Ted, do you have any good? Oh, I'll see it. Do you have one?
I just remember, I think one of the most dramatic things that has happened to me, and I'm always afraid of this, is that I forget my reeds.
Right.
Especially because, playing, bass clarinet, and I'm always dealing with this many reeds. And ironically, this happened to me because I was being good, I was practicing. So we were playing a piece that I'm not going to mention the piece, but it was I was playing clarinet and bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet, which I never played. So I diligently took all the instrument home between the dress rehearsal and the concert to practice. And so what happened, on my way to the concert, I just pick up everything and I forgot my clarinet reeds. I had my bass clarinet reeds and I had my contrabass clarinet reeds, but I didn't have clarinet reeds. And luckily, I didn't my role on clarinet wasn't as much. It was mostly bass clarinet and contra and some clarinet, but I forgot my clarinet reeds. And so I was too embarrassed to ask Laura or Ted for a reed because I was new in the orchestra. I was too embarrassed. So you know what? I actually took a bass clarinet reed and I took a reed knife and cut it on both sides.
Does that work?
Well, I shape it, because the bass clarinet reed is a lot wider, so I had to cut both sides so it was kind of even. And I didn't have anything to cut the back because it's a lot longer. So I just put it on a door and I break it against the door, so, and that's what, and I played the concert with that bass clarinet reed that was like super soft, so that's one of the most horrible experiences I have had,
Yeah, we know.
Since then, I always keep reeds in my locker. Like I keep a box of each instrument in my locker, and just in case I forget my reeds, because it's just like if you don't have the reeds, I mean, you cannot make a sound.
Yeah, I've heard of other people keeping a box of like expletive reeds in their
Yeah. Anything that can work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Ted, how about you? Do you have any stories?
Well, it's just kind of silly. I mean, but 2 times, like in outdoor concerts where it rained, and one was I used to sub in Rochester, and we were playing down at Finger Lakes, and we were playing Appalachian Spring, the opening, and it started to really gently rain. And I was playing, and I thought, like, this is the most beautiful thing I ever heard, with the rain in the background. And then the whole orchestra got up in disgust and said, "We can't play in this rain," and they like left the stage. So I was like so disappointed. But I mean, it was still such a fond memory because it was so beautiful. But it was just so funny that they got up. The other one was, I think it was like in Perkerson Park, like south of Atlanta. And we didn't used to have as good of a setup for outdoor parks concerts as we do now. But it started to rain, and we were playing William Tell Overture, and it starts, with there's sunrise and all the things, but then there's a thunderstorm, and there are these raindrops, and the rain started to leak through the roof. But it was great. It was like the greatest thing I ever, because it was making the exact, the strings plunk, 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 and then a puddle formed on the floor, and you could hear like dripping on the, and I just thought it was like, I couldn't believe it was actually happening because it was like so perfect. But I'm sure the audience didn't know why everyone was laughing in the orchestra, but it was fun to do those outdoor concerts when we did more of those in the summer.
That's where so much of the insanity happens, is with the outdoor concerts and things going wrong. Laura, how about you? Do you have any stories?
Oh gosh.
That you're willing to tell in public?
That's a funny thing, because there are a lot of stories, and half of them I can't say for one reason or the other. But I think the whole section will agree. And it's funny when it's someone else, it's really funny, but when it's you, you're thinking, "Oh, that's not so funny." So my funny one about somebody else is, and he's not going to hear this, so that's fine. But he was playing in Bellingham before I did, and apparently, right before clarinet solo, he was checking to make sure he didn't have any water in his keys, and he inhaled his pad.
Wow.
So, see how funny that is when it's someone else. And then there's Mahler 7.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Mahler 7. How many years ago was that, Marcy?
It was maybe 2 years ago.
Okay, it's in recent memory. And John Warren, are you there, John Warren?
He's watching. He's watching.
5 clarinets, and me, Marcy, John, Alcides, and Ted's at the end. So this involves pretty much everybody. And clarinet solos everywhere. And I don't remember what movement we're in, but the swab got stuck. The swab got stuck in the instrument. And I tried everything. Finally, I pass the clarinet down? I don't think.
I was like, here, give it to me. I'll check. And I'm like, oh God, no, it's really stuck. And then it just kind of progressively passed down the line.
The clarinet made it all.
He works on clarinets. He can do it.
And then my head's going, big solo in the second movement, big solo in the third movement, big solo. And I looked at Marcy. I said, oh my God, big second clarinet solos. And I looked at John. I said, John, give me your instrument. So very nice, wonderful player John Warren gave me his clarinet. The clarinet with the swab, and I got passed all the way down to the end. And Ted runs off stage with the instrument. I don't know. Were you thinking you could get it out somehow, or?
Well, I mean, I had the least to play of everybody, so. Yeah, I thought we'll go get the power tools out backstage and figure out what to do.
Yeah, the power tools. After the concert, or sometime I'm talking to Robert Spano, who was conducting, he said, what was wrong with Ted? Did he have to go to the bathroom or something?
That's amazing.
And Maestro Spano didn't even have any idea what was going on, because John so nicely gave me his nice older B flat, which mine was older too, so I was used to it, and I was happy as a clam. But we didn't have a lot of third clarinet that night, did we, John?
John just commented that he enjoyed trying to transpose Mahler.
John John took one for the team.
John took one from the team. Elizabeth Remy, our harp player, also says, even I remember that. Yeah, everyone tried to fix it.
So long story short, I mean, you know, how many years, we won't talk about how many years, it's been more than 30 years I've been playing in the Atlanta Symphony. It's never happened to me. Never had my swab stuck in my instrument. Nobody could get it out. And we finally went to Ken Potzik. I finally went to Ken Potzik, and he had to make a tool, special tool, to get the swab out.
Awful.
So the other funny story is when I was playing with Paul Murphy a million years ago, and we were doing runouts around the city, and I forgot my music at one runout and didn't realize till 6 p.m. in another location.
Oh,
And it was a Brook duo for viola and clarinet, and nowhere on a Sunday were you going to find this part. And Ted Gerch helped me cut and paste from a score the part,
oh my gosh.
the clarinet part, and just like the last line was taped in just in time to walk on stage and play the piece.
Oh God, that's the stuff of nightmares. We also have Kim Gilman, our second horn player, says that Mahler 7 was my first concert with the ASO. I was like, does this always happen here? So no, Kim, that was the first time in 30 years, and hopefully the last time also, for everyone's sanity. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for spending your evening with me. It's lovely to see all of you guys and chat with you a little bit. Thank you to everyone who was watching us on Facebook. We have our cello section, or a part of our cello section, coming up in 2 weeks on November 7th, which I'm super excited about. And until then, just keep in touch on the ATL Symphony Musicians Facebook page. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, clarinets.
Thank
Good
you,
to see
guys.
you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Emily.